So we're going to talk about how compressions and stretches affect the solutions to a trig equation today. So let's say, for instance, I asked you guys to solve this equation here, right? All right, so we've been doing that quite a bit, and so I think you guys would be pretty good at it by now. So let's see what that looks like really quick graphically. So what I've got here is I've got the sine wave, right? And then I have this blue line, which represents the half. And what you guys can see is that there's a spot where they're equal, right? And there's another one, another one. So it looks like there's 4 places where sine is equal to a half. One is at 330 degrees, another's at 210, another's at 30, and another's at 150. Now, we were solving this equation, sine x equals a half. What happens whenever you put a number here? When you multiply the x, you guys remember what transformation that is? It's horizontal because it's inside the parentheses with the x, and it's actually going to be a compression, so it's going to squish the graph this way. Okay, so I want to demonstrate to you guys what that does to our solution. So notice right now we've got these 4 answers up here. But if I take my equation sine x and I put a 2 there, it compresses the graph. And what do you guys notice about the solutions now on the same interval? Huh? They're half? I wonder. Maybe. Probably. But what I'm paying attention to mostly here is that there's more, isn't there? And if I change it to 4, you're going to get even more solutions, right? So the point is that whenever you have a compression, it actually increases the number of solutions. And the reason for that is because when you have a compression, it reduces your period, and therefore you get more cycles in the same time period, therefore you get more answers, right? And in the similar way, what would I multiply x by in order to get it to be a stretch instead of a compression? A negative would reflect it. It wouldn't stretch it. A decimal, like let's say 0.5. So notice how much longer it is now. Originally I had 4 answers, but now it looks like there's really only 2 on that same interval. So you lose solutions when there's a stretch. So whenever you're multiplying your x by a number that's bigger than 1, then you get more answers. Whenever you're multiplying your x by a decimal number, something that's between 1 and -1, you lose answers. You get less answers because that's a stretch. Okay? And so we're going to go ahead and be solving equations today that have vertical and horizontal stretches on them. Oh, I didn't want to do that. All right. So let's go ahead and write down example 1 here real quick. Now these problems are pretty long, just so you guys know. I'm going to be writing some steps down as I go. I would encourage you guys to write the steps down. After you've done like a couple, you probably won't need them anymore, but for the first few problems you do, it would be nice to have probably. I'm going to do something that seems weird, but I'll tell you why I'm doing it. What I'm going to do is I want to know what theta is, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out what this whole chunk is first, and then I'm going to use that to find out what theta is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it look simpler, okay? And the way we're going to make it look simpler is I'm going to create a new letter. We're going to call it U. And I'm going to say that U is equal to this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say that U is equal to whatever's on the inside. And we're going to rewrite this equation up top with a U instead. It's the same. I'm allowed to do that, okay? I haven't changed it. I've just changed the way it looks. I've replaced this big ugly thing in here with a U, and I'm allowed to do that because I've created this new letter and said, okay, look, that's what U is. So I've just made it look prettier. So we're going to call that U substitution. U substitution is your first step. Now that we've done that, we're going to solve it the way we always have. So I'm going to let you guys go ahead and solve that really quick. Go ahead and find out what U is. We're going to solve for U now. Go ahead and solve for U. I lost it. Bring it back. Do is we're going to make a reciprocal. Alyssa, what is next? Yeah. Cool. And then I shall ask Haley, what U values do I get? Okay. Oh. Okay. Someone got one for me? Chris, what did you get? 210 and 330? I think that's right. Yeah. Okay. It's on our unit circle, right? Okay. So the second step we've just completed. The second step is solve for U. Okay. And now I think a lot of you guys were kind of stuck on this. I'm not too sure why. Maybe it's because you were absent, or just because the U made it look funny. I'm not sure, but it's exactly what we've been doing for the past few days. All right. Oh, it's on the unit circle. Do you have your unit circle?
No, but I ended up putting using the arcs. I did one of them.
Oh yeah. So the arcs should give you one of them, right?
Yeah, but these are what 30 is.
Really?
I got negative 30.
Oh, guess what? So negative 30. That means we're going down, right? Remember on the unit circle, a negative angle means you're going to go clockwise to the counter. So that's like going down 30 degrees, which if you go the other way, that's 330. Okay. All right. Yeah. That and actually, even if you put that code, it would still give you that. The only downside is that this one over here, we have to find out a way to get that. I could show you how to do it sometime if you like. It's something I haven't shown in class because they're not doing it that way you're doing it, but I can show you how you can get the other one later if you like. All right. So anyway, here we go. We solved for U. Now here's the thing. Our directions asked us to solve for theta from 0 to 360. I haven't done what they've asked me to do because they're asking me to solve for theta, but I've solved for U. All right. First of all, before I move on to the next step, I'm going to write the general solution. But this time it's going to have a U in it for now. So my general solution is going to be U equals 210 plus what? Good. Because usually the period for cosecant is 360, right? So every 360 degrees we get a repeated answer. Over here we have another one. We have to do both because when it comes to cosecant, both of them give different answers. So I've got two general solutions there, two formulas that will generate all the answers for me. But I still don't have theta yet. This is where we're going to bring theta back. So I found out what u is, but I'm going to use that to find out what theta is. So this is step 3. Step 4. Put theta back. So what do I mean by that? What does u actually equal? So instead of saying u equals this, I'm going to say this equals the 210 plus 360. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so now I have an equation with theta in it instead of u, right? But I still haven't solved for theta, but that's pretty simple. We're just going to do some basic math now, some basic algebra stuff. I want to solve for theta, so I want to get theta by itself. So what am I going to do? You're going to minus the 45 on both sides. For each, I'll do both at the same time if that's okay with you guys. Okay, 45. What's 210 take away 45? I'm hearing 65. And how about over here? Is it 175? No, it is. It's 60. Because if you make this an 11 to borrow, you got to borrow 1. It goes back to 6. So, yeah, it's 111. I'll just double check to be sure. So first of all, I'm going to borrow from here, right? That's 5. So now I have 0, right? And then I'm going to borrow from this one? No, you're borrowing from the one next to it to make the 0 become a 10. So then I have 10 take away 5, which is 5. But now I have 0 here, so I'm going to borrow 1 here, which makes this 0 become a 10, and 10 take away 4 is 6. So it is 165. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this one. So what does 330 take away 45? Okay, and then we would divide everything by -2, right? Yep. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to something kind of interesting that happens here, though. What was my period? What's going to happen to my period here? It's going to get reduced, right? And that's because we had a horizontal compression, so now we're going to have more cycles on a smaller interval, right? So, well, we're going to have more cycles on the same interval, which means, am I going to have more answers or less answers? More, because you squished it and you squeezed more answers in on the same thing. So here we go. 165 divided by 2 is 82.5 with a negative in front, right? 360 divided by -2 is going to be -180n. And then we have theta equals 162.5 negative minus 180n. All right. So now 142, not 62. Thank you. We're good now? All right. Okay, so that was the next step, which was to solve for theta. All right, we're almost there. So now I have a general solution for theta instead of u. Now, but notice the period is smaller, so we're going to get more answers than we usually would have. So let's go ahead and do this. We start off with 0, right? And that's going to be -82.5. Is that on my interval? According to our directions, is that on my interval? No. We want 0 to 360, so we're not going to use that. So I want to go higher, right? What would I have to plug in to make it go higher? If you plug in 1, it's actually going to go down because we have a minus here now, right? So let's plug in a negative 1. What would that give me? I need help with calculators out there because I can't really do that in my head. So 97.5? I remember that from last block. All right, next one, 82.5 minus 180 times negative 2. Let's see, 97.5 is on our interval. Let's see if this is on our interval. 360 take away 82.5. 277.5? That's on our interval too, right? Oops.
Wait, what do you mean interval? How do you know it's on there?
The directions said find all answers from 0 to 360. So this is from 0 to 360, and so is this. So I think that's all we're going to have, because if I do another 180, it's going to go outside the 360 mark. So we're going to stop there. Let's do the other side now. Okay, so this one gives me negative 142, which is no good, right? Let's go ahead and work backwards again. What's negative 142.5 plus 180? 37.5? What's that, Kev?
So even though in the general solution the 360 brings down to 180, the interval is still up to 360.
Yeah, because the interval is the interval. Like they're saying, find me all the answers from here to here. But what happened was we took the graph and squished the graph, so now you got more answers inside of it.
But yeah, but it's still
The interval stays 0 to 360, but the period changed, but not the interval. All right, let's do another one. I'm pretty sure we could squish more on there. So what would that be?
217.5.
Huh?
217.5.
Okay, so another one's not going to fit. Now you guys might think, we always get 4 answers. I thought we were getting more. Well, I think that if we solved it without that compression, we would have had less. So I think we probably would have only had 2. So we got 4 because of the compression. All right, so that's that. So we're gonna so there's your steps. So I've got 6 here. So our steps were do U substitution, solve for U, write a general solution for U, put the theta back, and then solve for theta. And once you get here, you can solve for theta like we always have by plugging in specific values. Okay? So that's it.
Wait, what was step 4?
Huh?
Step 4.
Step 4. Put the theta back. So there's the process, but don't forget the concept. Compressions and stretches increase or decrease the amount of solutions you get on a specific interval. Okay?
It says, number 6 says find what?
Find the specific values for theta, because this is the general solution, the general answer. These are the specific answers on the interval that we care about. Is ready for a guided practice?
Yes.
I can. Everybody else good? Okay, so we're going to do a student practice or a guided practice, which means I'm going to kind of walk you guys through it a little bit, but let you guys do most of the work. So we're just going to stick with 0 to 360 today. All right, so I feel like this is not the right one. I think I went too far. Yes, this is the one I want to do. So let me ask you guys a question. Go ahead and write it down first of all. Yeah. Now, raise your hand if you know the answers to these. Is this, do I have a horizontal stretch or a compression, and how do you know? Andrew?
Is that zero? Is that a zero or theta?
That the one on the very end is a 0. Yes. A compression. How do you know? Good. So I'm going to give you a point for that, but it's actually because it's that makes it a stretch. So whenever so what this is here is you can think of it like this, if you like. Remember how we said that if you multiply by a number like 2 or 4, it compresses it and gives you, makes it, right? But if you have a half, it stretches it. So now let me ask another question though. So cotangent from 0 to 360, it probably equals 0 twice, right? So let me ask you, because of this stretch, am I going to gain solutions or lose solutions? You're going to lose solutions. Now, if you want a picture to see why, I'll give you a little picture. You guys agree this is what cotangent looks like, right? And that's from 0 to 180. So from 0 to 360, you're going to have 2 cycles. And it would equal 0 like right about here, right? But since I'm stretching it twice as far, because I'm cutting it in half, my graph is going to look like this now. Now how many times does it cross that axis? Only once. So when you multiply your theta by a number that's less than 1, it stretches it and you lose solutions. When you multiply by a number that's greater than 1, it compresses it and you gain solutions. So, no, I'm just kind of drilling you with the concept, but I mean, you can. Make a little note about it if you like. But now that the concept's been addressed, let's go ahead and move into the process here. So I want you guys to do the first step. It should only take you about 30 seconds. Go for it. That's right. So I'm going to say that U equals what, Ollie? Good. And so if I do my U substitution, it's going to look like this. Okay? Now the next step. We're going to solve for U. This is a little bit of a tricky one. You do get 2 answers, okay? But something weird happens along the way. So I guess I'll help you out a little bit. We're going to take the reciprocal, right? What's the reciprocal of 0? Undefined. So, that being said, I'm going to go and let you go. No? Want to tell me the first step then? Mm-hmm. Good, I'll take that. So if you take, oh, I'm being silly here, hold on. So if you take the reciprocal on both sides, you get this weird looking outcome here. And Tia, what's 1 over cotangent the same thing as? Yeah. So what we're looking for in our unit circle is we're looking for where tangent is undefined. And so I'm going to ask Anicia, where is tangent undefined at? That's right. All right, so now I want you guys to do the next step. It should take you about 30 seconds. Go for it. So that would be U equals what?
90 plus 180.
Good. And?
270 plus 180.
Good.
Why is it 180? Yeah. Don't we only do one of them? Oh, because tangent 180.
So she's got it. So you got that? And yes, because it's tangent, we only need to do one of them. So why don't we just kill one now? Since it's tangent, we don't need the other one, right? Same reason that Jalen gave for the reason it's 180. Tangent and cotangent are special. First of all, they have a different period than other functions. They have a 180. Second of all, when you get your two answers, you really only need to do one of them because they will both give you the same exact answer sets. All right, now let's go ahead and continue. So at this point, Danielle, what's next? I'm going to come at you a little bit from left field here to give you a chance to think. But what will we do next? That's right, replace the u. So what was u again? Like this? Is that right? Okay. So from here, I'm going to let you guys solve for theta. Now my advice is I would multiply everything by 2 first to get rid of the fraction. That's up to you, however you want to do it. Yeah, that could be your last step too. Sometimes it's better to do it first, but in this case it actually wouldn't matter. So go ahead and solve for your theta. I'll call. Okay, so let's see if we agree. So first of all, we would multiply everything by 2, right? So times 2, times 2, times 2, times 2. These 2's cancel, which is my whole purpose in doing that. This is 240. This is 180. And this is 360. Now let's stop here and think for a minute. The period was 180. Now what happened to it? It got bigger, right? Because of that horizontal stretch. The period increased, like we thought it would.
It's 420. Yeah, I got 240.
Oh, 420?
Yeah.
Oh. I did this wrong. 210 times 2 is 420. All right, then we would subtract. So what is 180 take away 420?
240.
So this is negative 240 then. Okay. We good now?
Yeah.
All right, so we have the last step to do now, which is where you find all the specific little angles that would exist between 0 and 360. I'll let you guys do that. Take a moment and find them all. We got one answer by plugging in 1. And that answer makes sense, because remember I drew that picture in the beginning. We talked about how cotangent would have that value twice, but since we stretched it, you lose a solution, and now we only have one answer instead of 2. So there you go. That's the idea for today. So that compressions and stretches reduce or enlarge the number of solutions that you have. The way that you solve it is with this weird little trick called U substitution. Okay, so one more problem, and this one's just for, instead of a guided practice where I walk you through it step by step, I'm just going to let you guys go to town and do the whole thing from beginning to end. So see if you can find all the solutions for this problem here, and that'll close us out for the day. So we start with our U substitution, and what are we getting for U, guys? Well, just for this piece, like on the unit circle. 90. Good job. All right. And so the general solution for this would be 90 plus what? 360 in, right? Now, I guess before I go any further, am I going to have a stretch or a compression here? It's a compression. So am I going to gain solutions and have more or lose? You're going to get more solutions than usual. Usually, sine will only give you at most 2 answers. Well, actually, in this case, it only gave us 1. But now we're going to get more solutions because we've got it compressed on the interval. All right. So now we're going to replace u with 4 theta plus 270 equals that. And then when I solve for theta, guys, what do we end up with? So notice that my period is now shorter. It completes a cycle in fewer degrees. So you're going to get more answers within that same interval of 360. And then when we go through and we plug in all the numbers that we can, we should end up with the following solutions. 45, 135, 225. Am I right?
Yeah.
And 315. So you end up with 4 answers. And that's it.